Hey y'all, so here we are, part three. You saw that I got the puzzle part put together. I already recorded what you're about to see um, before I recorded this intro. So I already have all of the parts, pieces in place. But the video you're about to see, I will be putting all of the castles, keeps, villages, and things in place. And just kind of giving a little overview and explanation of what each one is and the part that plays in the show. And as well as a little background on some of the characters that are from some of those places. So I hope you enjoy. This is the final part. It'll be all complete by the time this video is over with, and I can move on to the next puzzle. So here we go. All right. Well, that was really not as easy as I thought it was going to be. Oh, I got a piece popping off there. Um, no, it was not as easy as I thought it was going to be. The reason being is because these areas of rocks, except for here, this was simple. These areas of rocks here that shows where the different mountain ranges and hillsides and stuff are, uh, they were so similar in color, especially this, and this. This and this were very close in color. And then this, and this were very close in color as well. So they were really hard if you didn't have any other markings to go by, like the lettering or anything like that. It was hard to tell where some of the smaller pieces fit in. You can see when I was doing the thing, there was a lot of switching parts around. Once you get them in place, they fit there, but you really have to look at the design of the rocks to see if your part fit in where it's supposed to, your piece fit in where it's supposed to go. Very good, but it brings Westeros to life with the textures. It really starts to bring the whole land to life. So what we're going to do here, and I'm going to do this in real time, is we're going to place all of the buildings and landmarks and maybe give you a little, if you're not familiar with the show, a little background onto where these places are, um, what they're for, where they're at, that kind of thing. Um, First off, we're going to start off with the areas of the map and where what they signify. And we're going to start off first of all with the Barrowlands. And what these are is they hold many of the old things from the what they called the old people, the first men. Um, they were in any, like in America, the Native Americans, in Canada, the first men there, or the original people there, the indigenous people that settled the land that everybody else is now an ancestor of. That's the Barrowlands. It holds a lot of the lore and stuff from those people. And so we get a little place marker there that says the Barrowlands. Um, and the Barrowlands is where the King's Road cuts through. So the King's Road starts up here at the wall, and it works its way down through in and around Winterfell. It kind of branches through and goes through Winterfell, or you can go around it. And then it meets together here again by Castle Serwyn. And then it comes down this way and goes all the way to King's Landing. But then it also goes around King's Landing and comes over here into the Vale of Arryn. And then it also comes down through the Reach. And part of it goes over to the Westerlands where Casterly Rock is, and River Run, and Harrenhal. And then it also goes over into the Stormlands. And then it comes down and goes this way all the way down to Old Town. And another part of it comes down here like this and goes into Dorne, which is the southern lands of the map. Cape Kraken is the next one. Now, Cape Kraken is just a western cape. It seems to be the place where the Ironborn from Pike seem to, whenever they seem to want to take the Ironborn, get a wild hair up their ass ever so often, and they decide they want to try to come in and take over Westeros. These little people that live here on this little island, they're kind of full of themselves. They think they're more badass than everybody else. So they try to take over every now and then. When they do, they usually come into Cape Kraken because if they came into Riverlands, it's well defended by castles and villages and Casterly Rock there, and then they have to get past Harrenhal and River Run. They got to get through the Twins. You know, the only thing they got to do when they come this way is come around, go through the Twins, and they've got a straight shot at King's Landing. They come this way, they got all of this to go through. So they always kind of invade there. So Cape Kraken has really seen a lot of action over the years. Now we're gonna move on to Dorne. Dorne is the land of the southern end of Westeros, and it's ruled by the Martells. They're desert people. It's funny how Westeros is kind of a, what's the best way to put it? It's kind of an analog of the entire globe, real globe. You got the Northerners up here. Those are like those would be your people that like your Inuit people, stuff like that. They're considered wildlings. And then you have your Northerners, your northern people. They would be your, I don't know what's the best, like they would be more of your like your German. Hey, please move. Thank you. Um, they'd be more like your northern people. They'd be like your Germanic tribes were back in the day. They were your Norsemen, your very hardy people. Um, but they're kind of just like they're their own people. They just want to be left alone. They have a different. Most of them still worship the old gods. Um, and they just want to be left alone and left to do their thing. And what separates the North and the South is the neck and the Twins. You got to get through the Twins to get to the Southern Lands. And so the Fist of the First Man is a hilltop plateau that serves as a natural fortification for thousands of years, and it dated back to the arrival of Westeros' first conquerors. And that is located up here in the north. That is right here. And the Frostfang Mountains they're a mountain range that are northeast of the wall, and it takes its name from a bunch of jagged peaks. And I don't know why it says northeast of the wall because that's south. That would be northwest of the wall. So there was a misprint in the book. Where is it? Frostfang Mountain. I know I've got a. Yep, there it is. The Frostfang Mountains are right there. And that's actually that entire mountain range. But the mountain pass is a narrow road that marks the only path through the mountains of the moon. That's kind of more in the books than it is in the show. It's not really mentioned a whole lot in the show, but that is right here. There is a part that takes place there. In the show, it's where Tyrion Lannister and his men are helping Lady Catelyn Stark go see her sister, who is also the last living adult of the House of Aaron, which is there. She goes to seek her sister for help and to warn her about the Lannisters, who are in now the monarchy. And so a little bit of the show takes place there. Then you have the Riverlands, and they lack the natural defenses of other regions, but the seat of River Run has a very unique barricade there. So they, where does that one go? Okay, yeah, that one goes there. Stony Shore is a small area of fishing villages. The Stony Shore is raided during the War of the Five Kings by Theon Greyjoy. So when Theon finally comes back to help his dad say, look, hey, look, I'm not a Stark. Yeah, you sent me as a warden of theirs, and they kind of adopted me and raised me as one of their own, but I am not a Stark. I'm a Greyjoy, and I have the guts to go take over the king, take over the Iron Throne. He really didn't. And he ended up becoming a captive of the Ramsay Bolton, the spoiled kid of Roose Bolton, who then used Theon as basically a toy, a pet. He made him a pet. It's the best way to put it. Castrated him, kept him in a cage, and treated him like a pet. Um, like a very abused pet. Um, so that is the Stony Shore. So let me find it there. And that is up here. So that's where Theon, what he did was when he evaded, instead of going to Cape Kraken, he's like, you know what? They expect me to come to Cape Kraken. I'm going to sail my ships up here, and I'm going to attack the Stony Shore and come in that way. Maybe a longer way, but they're not expecting you there. They're expecting him there. And Theon thinks he has the help of the Starks because the Starks at Winterfell raised him. The Stormlands. It's ruled by House Baratheon, who was the king at the start of the show. Robert Baratheon was the king. He comes from the Stormlands. And they are named for the storms that often hit this east coast of Westeros. Number 10 is the Gift. The Gift is a tract of land right here that was given by the Starks from Winterfell to the Night's Watch, which are the people that man Castle Black, the Last Watch, the Last Hearth, and Shadow Tower, and the Wall. And what they basically do is they keep the wildlings north of the Wall. They don't want the wildlings intermixing with the people down here. It's kind of racist. But that's the Gift. Winterfell gave this area of land here to the Night's Watch. The lands of always winter. That would be right here. That is exactly as it says. It's the lands of always winter. It's where the wildlings live. It's where everything. The giants live up there. But the Night King also lives up there. That's where he comes from. And the Night King is a magical zombie undead ruler who is kind of a prophecy, kind of a myth, but not a myth. Kind of like, okay, if we had like a zombie Bigfoot that had a whole army, that's what we're thinking of with the Night King. The people don't think he's real. They think it's always just a childhood myth passed down through stories and stuff, but turns out it's true. And that's where he originates from and comes down to try to take over Westeros. It's kind of just it's almost a side story to the actual story of the show, because the story of the show is where King Robert Baratheon dies, and people from all of these different houses around here think they have a claim to the throne. His wife and her illegitimate son with her illegitimate son from an incestuous relationship with her brother that he thinks is his, that the king thinks is his. He's actually the heir to the throne, but he's an impetuous jerk and childish. So he needs his mom to rule with him. She's just as impetuous as he is. But the Lannisters are power hungry, and so they're not going to get rid of that throne real quick. But Robb Stark thinks he has a rule to the throne, or has a claim to the throne, as King of the North. He calls himself King of the North, leads an invasion, unsuccessful. you've got the Boltons, you've got, of course, the Lannisters, you've got the Iron Islands, the Greyjoys. All of these different people think they have a claim to the throne. The real claim to the throne throughout the whole thing, though, is a side character named uh, Targaryen, who the House Targaryen, who were the kings before Baratheon, and they were the dragon people. They were the ones that raised dragons, and the dragons had all but been killed off. And we'll get more into that house and those people when we do the puzzle of Essos, because that Essos is where they are from. So the next one would be the neck. The neck is kind of the separating point between the north and the south. You got to get through the neck to get to the north. It's a treacherous swampland. It's populated by the Crannogmen. The neck makes any attack on the north difficult. The Reach is kind of a big plains area. The Reach is known for the home of chivalry in Westeros, where knighthood is revered. So it's kind of like, the Reach is kind of like Sherwood Forest in the Legend of King Arthur. It's where the knights train. It's where most of them come from. They're all about, this whole area here is like the new Europe. The kings, the knights, the queen's court, the traditions, the modern traditions are all in this area here. So if you think of like the, story of King Arthur and those, the way that's laid out, or the way modern day Europe is kind of laid out, that's this area of the map here. The Trident takes its name because of the three forks of the river. The red fork, the green fork, and the blue fork here. Okay. The Trident is right there. You got to get over the Trident, and there's two ways across. There's only one way across the river, but there's only one part to get into King's Landing right there at the Trident. The Vale of Arryn, we spoke on that already. It's enclosed almost entirely by the Mountains of the Moon, and the Vale is accessible only during the warmer seasons. So, let me find it. It's right there. I think that's the Vale. Yeah, that's the Vale of Arryn. 16 is Westerlands. That's just kind of the western area. It's ruled by the Lannisters, and it's protected by extensive hills and mountains. So they kind of have the Lannisters kind of have a natural fortress at their house here, Casterly Rock. Not their house, it's their keep. It's their castle. And then you have the Whispering Woods. They're a small forest in the Riverlands that grows near the Trident, and it played host to a key battle during the War of the Five Kings. Very key battle there. And then Wolfswood, known as the Wolfswood, for the many wolves that can be heard howling at night. Now, House Stark from Winterfell, their sigil, their symbol, is the direwolf. And that's where Winterfell is, right next to Wolfswood. It kind of makes sense why they have the direwolf. So now we're going to get into some very serious battles. Mark those next. The Battle of Blackwater, and this happens later on in the show during the War of the Five Kings. That's when the five different people from around the land say, hey, we have a claim to the throne because Robert Baratheon was killed by a wild boar when he was hunting, and now his illegitimate son from his wife's incestuous relationship with her brother thinks he's the king, and we don't accept this. We all have a claim to the throne. So they all come from different areas. They kind of team up together. They have treaties with one another. They make treaties with other houses to allow them passage here and there, that kind of thing. All of this battling going on. Well, one of them is a mariner, the Boltons, and he puts together Stannis Baratheon, I'm sorry, the brother of the king that died, thinks he has claim to the throne. Well, he puts together a fleet of people, and he comes into Blackwater Bay. The Lannisters find out that there's still some maesters that know how to make wildfire, which is kind of like modern day napalm. Um, it's an unquenchable fire, and they can store it in barrels. It's a liquid that, once ignited, will not go out. And they start launching wildfire um, at the fleet, and basically the Battle of Blackwater happens, and that's where this happened right here. Actually, it happened on the parapets of Kings of the Red Keep and into the Battle of Blackwater, or Blackwater Bay. The Battle of the Ruby Ford is where it was one of the last battles of the War of the Five Kings. The Battle of Ruby Ford was led by Roose Bolton. He was, in order to reduce the number of Stark supporters able to retaliate. Once they were at the Ruby Ford, torrential rains forced Bolton's men to cross the small boats, providing a perfect opportunity for Sir Gregor Clegane to attack the mountain, they called him. He was huge. To attack the men who were yet unable to cross the river. Many were killed or taken captive by Sir Clegane for a Lannister victory. Bolton left 600 men at the ford and then continued on to the Twins with about 3,500 men. And as this battle occurred shortly after, the Karstarks lost their lord to Robb Stark's justice. So the Karstarks from Karhold, they were teamed up with Robb Stark, who was trying to also take there. Well, Roose Bolton teamed up with the Lannisters from here. The Boltons are from the Crag, which is over here somewhere, I think. So the Boltons were teamed up with the Lannisters, and you had Robb Stark was teamed up with the Karstarks, and some of the people of Arryn, and his mother's family was from Riverrun. So Robb comes to the Twins, brings his armies down here. Bolton's got his armies coming up here and coming over from the Lannisters. They meet up there in this area here. And it didn't turn out real well for the Starks. Didn't really turn out real well. The Lannisters won it. But Robb had agreed, in order to gain passage through here, he had agreed to Walder Frey to marry one of his daughters. Well, during this battle, he met his future wife, and ended up sending one of his other friends from the Tully house, Tully, which is his mom's side of the family. One of his bannermen from the Tully house, he agreed to marry Walder Frey's daughter in basically as a tribute. At that wedding, the Bolton men and the Lannister men infiltrated the wedding as guests. And at the end of the wedding, after the bride and groom were gone, they locked the doors to the big party room they had, and they slaughtered Robb Stark, his mom, and his wife and unborn child. It's called the Red Wedding. That was basically a very huge turning point in the whole story. Robb Stark's claim to the throne is dead at that point, because he's gone. All of his men are taken captive. His direwolf is killed. His sister actually doesn't witness the killing, but she witnesses the aftermath of it, and she runs off, and she's gone. She comes back later on with a vengeance. So that is the Battle of wait a minute. And that is the Battle of Whispering Wood, which is right there. No, that's the Battle of Ruby Ford. I'm sorry. Yep. All right. Battle of Whispering Wood is next. I'm actually using the guide to go through a lot of this and explain it, even though I've seen the show and I can explain it. Knowing a lot of the names and stuff, I never really understood the names of the battles and stuff. I watched the show. I can tell you what each one of those battles is once I hear the name and a little write up about it. The Battle of Whispering Wood is where Robb Stark, this is before he was killed here, he dealt Tywin Lannister, who was the head of House Lannister, an unexpected blow at Whispering Wood when he managed to outsmart the veteran commander. Although Robb's march south was backed by a combined force of Stark, Tully, and Frey troops, the young wolf was severely outnumbered. To help even the odds, he fed fake intelligence to a captured Lannister scout, implied that his entire host would attack the Lannisters at the Green Fork, and in truth, Robb sent only 2,000 men against Lord Tywin, sacrificing their lives to allow a surprise attack elsewhere. The larger part of his force marched to the Whispering Wood, where they outmaneuvered Jaime Lannister and took him hostage. So the brother that was having incestuous relations with the sister that created the kid who is now king was taken hostage by Robb Stark right here at the Whispering Wood. Which that was he sacrificed 2,000 of his men here to actually lead an attack over here, a surprise attack, which actually worked. The Siege of Storm's End. Storm's End has never surrendered any enemy forces ever in history. And they've tried to penetrate its walls for years. But during Robert's Rebellion, an army of loyalists, Targaryen loyalists, people who were, loyal to the king at the time, Robert Baratheon, the king that died at the start of the show, was the leader of this army. That's how he became king. They besieged the castle for a year, trying to take over. And Stannis, the future king's brother, was tasked with protecting the family seat and was reduced to eating rats and glue, while Mace Tyrell from down here at the Arbor and the High Garden, Mace Tyrell attempted to breach the castle's walls. Davos Seaworth managed to slip through the blockade and supply Stannis' soldiers with onions and saltfish, keeping them alive until Ned Stark arrived to lift the siege. So Ned Stark from Winterfell came down to help Robert Baratheon take Storm's End, and eventually Robert Baratheon got the throne. And when Jaime Lannister killed the king, Robert Baratheon took the seat, and then Robert Baratheon asked for, first of all, Ned Stark's sister's husband, Lord Aaron, to be his hand of the king. Well, he found out about Jaime and Cersei Lannister's incestuous relationship and the fact that Joffrey Baratheon was not actually Robert Baratheon's son. And in order to protect their secret, they had him killed. So when he was killed, Robert Baratheon said, come up to his old battle buddy Ned and said, hey, I need you. I need you to come down and be my hand of the king. Ned didn't want to do it. Ned just wanted to be left alone up here. He's got his family. He's got his thing going. He's got it good up here. He's the Warden of the North. He's basically in charge of all this area up here for the king, and he's happy doing that. He wants to be left alone. He lives by the old ways, He's your good old Southern, like in the U.S. it would be your good old Southern boy. Just wants to have his land, have his family, work hard, live life by the old traditions. He's that guy. Well, unfortunately, he says, you know what? I feel a duty to have to go do this. You're my old buddy. I went to battle with you. We fought together. So he goes down to King's Landing, and then he finds out the secret between the Lannisters, and they have him executed as well, which is really what kicks the entire War of the Five Kings into the thing, because they had him executed after Robert Baratheon died of a hunting accident, and the incestuous offspring took over the throne with the mother, Cersei, as his basically, queen mother, who actually she ruled. He was just the king. He signed the papers and put the seal on it. They had Ned Stark executed, publicly beheaded, And his daughter got to watch it happen, both of his daughters. Wasn't pretty, and it set the stage for the entire War of the Five Kings and the whole show to happen. You have the Siege of Pike. The Greyjoy Rebellion was all but extinguished when Robert Baratheon led an attack on Balon Greyjoy's ancestral stronghold, which is over here at Pike. In the ensuing assault, Meryn Greyjoy, the second of Balon's sons, gave his life to his cause when a watchtower collapsed upon him. Future adversaries Ned Stark and Jaime Lannister stood out among the battle's strongest fighters, as did Jorah Mormont, whom Robert knighted for his valor. To guarantee Balon Greyjoy's fealty, Ned Stark took his only surviving son, Theon, to raise as his ward. So as I was telling you before, Theon Greyjoy left Pike because, Ned Stark helped defend it. And they sent their son to go live with the Starks. And Stark, Ned Stark, old kind of guy, man, good old fashioned values. He could have treated him like a slave, but he didn't. He treated him like one of his own sons. He had him educated. He taught him to fight. He taught him everything that he treated him like one of his sons. He also had a bastard son, Jon Snow, who ended up playing a major role in the whole story. And that's in the whole part of the story about the Night King from up here. That's like a side quest. But Jon Snow, his bastard son, was even raised like one of his sons. His wife did not like Jon Snow because he was a bastard son from a previous relationship, or so she thought, which turned out differently with the big twist at the end. But yeah. So those are the battles and the places. Those are the battles and the main areas of the map. So now we're going to get into the main castles or keeps. And to start it all off, we're going to go with the Iron Throne. The Iron Throne is a throne made of the melted together swords of the enemies of the Mad King, Aegon Greyjoy. Or Aegon Targaryen. He had the swords of the people that he defeated in battle, forged together with the dragon's fire to make the Iron Throne. The Iron Throne sits in the Red Keep, which sits at the prominent point in King's Landing, the main city of the entire land. That's where the king sits. That's where all the power in Westeros is centered, is right there. King's Landing. It's heavily fortified. The castle sits on top of a high point. Got the Blackwater Bay, which ends right at the base of the castle. So it's like you have to hit these imposing walls to come in if you're going to invade from the water. And any direction at all, you've got a wall to get over, which is heavily defended. Then you have the main defense against the wildlings, which, is kind of a racist thing, but they want to keep the wildlings up here. They don't really like them. They're like the Inuit people. They're kind of like, this is like the reservation up here. It's kind of bad. They want to keep the wildlings up there because they don't think the wildlings can mingle very well with the people down here. So they built a giant ice wall to keep them out. And they put a castle there. Well, they think they just used the wildlings as an excuse because the Night King, even though he was a myth, actually had happened. But throughout the years, it happened so long ago that, the summers were extreme. They were in the middle of an extremely long summer, which they called, that's why you hear winter is coming. That was the House Stark's motto too, winter is coming. And the reason why they say that is because when winter happens is when the Night King comes out. Well, it had been quite a long time since they'd had a winter, and it was due for it soon. And there were rumblings from the watchers on the wall the Night's Watch, that there had been some weird things going on up here, and it didn't look good. And so the the story starts with the zombie. And so Jon Snow, since he is the bastard son of Ned, he'll never be a nobleman as far as modern society is concerned. He decides to go to the wall where his uncle is. And he goes up to Castle Black and basically takes an oath that he'll never take a wife, never take a noble name, never be head of a house, won't have any children, no nothing. He's going to live at Castle Black, and he's going to defend the wall for the rest of his life. Basically, just gives up everything to go there and defend the wall. That's what happened to a lot of bastards, criminals, people, prisoners, stuff like that. They all end up at the wall. They're kind of like the miscreants of society, end up as the Night's Watch, protecting the rest of the world. Kind of weird, huh? Then you have Winterfell. Winterfell, the home of the Starks. They live by the old gods. They worship, Ned Stark worships the old gods, but his wife, Catelyn, worships the seven gods. It's quite the house, quite the place. It's kind of sits out in the open, but it is heavily fortified, and the Starks are some fighting people. And then you have Casterly Rock. Casterly Rock is where the Lannisters are from. It sits up on top of a high hill, and on top of that, it's got a nice high spot on top of that, like it sits on top of a plateau. It's a big rock fortification and a castle built atop it, and that's where the Lannisters are the rich folks. They're like the money. They are money. It's also the house of the Warden of the West. You got the Warden of the North, the Warden of the West, the King, and then the Warden of the South is down here. Then you have Dragonstone. Well, Dragonstone is where the Targaryens, the dragon people, this was where they set up their house. Right here. This little island here. If I can get the house in there. There it goes. That's Dragonstone. Surrounded by water. Big castle in the middle. It's where the dragons lived. That's where the house of the dragon was. River Run, the Tullys. This is River Run. River Run is the Tullys. That is the family of Ned Stark's wife. She was a Tully before he took her to be his wife. And her family is all from that house there. They kind of rule that area of the Riverlands. And then you have Harrenhal. Harrenhal, let me go back here and find it. Harrenhal was captured by the Lannisters from the Tully allies, House Went. Harrenhal was given to Janos Slynt as thanks for his part in the capture of Ned Stark. The castle was built centuries ago by Harren the Black, who was betrayed by his bannermen during the Targaryen conquest. So when the Targaryens came in and said, you know what, we're going to take over with our dragons, this guy here was betrayed by his bannermen. And no lord has lasted long within its walls. It's believed to be a cursed keep. And that's where Tywin Lannister ends up taking on Arya Stark as a she's like an assistant that, like she's like his housekeeper or servant or whatever. He does not know that she is Ned Stark's daughter. He thought he had killed all the Starks by this point. Harrenhal is a rundown, destroyed city. It is believed to be cursed. The weirwood tree is sacred to the followers of the old faith and known as heart trees. Many weirwood trees have faces carved into their trunks so that the old gods may watch over the followers and witness important events such as marriages. The carving of faces was done by the children of the forest before the coming of the first men across the narrow sea. Green seers of the children of the forest are able to see through the eyes of the werewoods at any point in time. Werewoods still only grow in significant numbers in the forests of the north, and beyond the wall, they are even more prevalent up here. Ned Stark was a huge follower of the old gods, and he had a werewood tree in Winterfell. Let's go here and look at the Eyrie. The Eyrie is where Ned Stark's wife, Lady Arryn, Ned Stark's wife's sister, Lady Arryn, married Lord Arryn, who was the Hand of the King that was killed before the show just started. That's what kind of set the show in motion, was Lord Arryn from the Eyrie. The Eyrie sits atop a huge tower. Huge tower. It's almost entirely impregnable because of this tower. Like, this house, this place is up in the clouds. It uses its high placement to other advantage while locking criminals in 3-walled sky cells that open to a sheer drop down the mountainside. Yes, in part of the show, Tyrion Lannister gets put in one of these sky cells, and it's just a big archway with an open face that's way up here at the top of this thing with, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of foot drop to the valley below. And the floors are slightly slanted. So you fall asleep, it's possible you could roll right down the floor and right out the sky cell. People don't live long that get put in there. Pike is the Iron Islands. The House Greyjoy is from Pike. They are they're full of themselves. They think they're better than they are. But yeah, they live here in Pike. If I can get Pike into its hole. There we go. Get in your home. There you go. All right. There goes Pike. Poor lonely little Pike. It sits over there. The Iron Maple. They really think a lot heavily of themselves. The Sigil is the Kraken. They really are. They're more than they think they are. And then you got the twins, which is the Freys. And they play the crucial part in Robb Stark's bid for the Iron Throne when they hold the wedding of Edmure Tully to his daughter, who Robb Stark was originally supposed to marry, but ended up marrying the girl that he met here at the Battle of the Whispering Wood, it battled the Ruby Ford, and he ended up marrying her instead, betrayed him, who in return betrayed him, and had him slaughtered at his bannerman's wedding. Then you have all of the minor houses, and we're going to go through those really fast. Ashford is the seat of House Ashford, sworn to House Tyrell. Ashford is right here. So House Tyrell is at the Arbor. I think. No, Highgarden is the seat of House Tyrell. He's the Warden of the South. Highgarden there. So that's where we go next. House Tyrell. House Tyrell actually makes a bid for the throne as well. In fact, the daughter of House Tyrell ends up being the queen for a while when she marries Joffrey Baratheon. But she's kind of a gold digger. She marries Joffrey, and then when Joffrey gets killed, she marries his little brother, who's now the king. And then she also marries another guy who not Robb Stark, but another uh, wannabe king, Robert Baratheon's uh, nephew, who thinks he should be king or whatever. And she marries him too. So she kind of just marries into power and money. She that's where she does, and that's how Highgarden basically gets their stature from. They just keep marrying into money. They're like they're gold diggers. They basically depend on the Lannisters for their money. Um, you got Brightwater, which is the seat of House Florent, which is sworn to Highgarden. And the Tyrells. And then you have Castle Serwyn, which is the seat of House Serwyn, and they are sworn to Winterfell. Clegane's Keep, which is where the Mountain and the Hound are both from. They're both very big warriors. They are sworn to House Lannister. They play important parts in the movie or in the show. Dreadfort is the seat of House Bolton, sworn to Winterfell. So the Dreadfort is. Where is the Dreadfort? I'm not exactly sure where the Dreadfort is. Um. Oh, it's up here. Okay, well, see, the Dreadfort. Yeah, the Dreadfort is sworn to House Lannister, but they're right up by Winterfell. No, they are sworn to Winterfell. Never mind. It's the Boltons are sworn to Winterfell, but they do turn on the Starks during the War of the Five Kings. Um, the Boltons are not. They're not loyal to Winterfell. Um, Eastwatch is one of the three fortresses on the wall still manned by the Night's Watch. So Night's Watch does do the Eastwatch and the Shadow Tower, which we'll do that. Yeah, let's go over here to the Shadow Tower. And we'll put that in place while we're here. And then the Golden Tooth is the seat of House Lefford, which is sworn to Casterly Rock and the Lannisters. And that is right here. So all of these are like minor keeps. They're like minor houses. They aren't villages or towns, but each keep is kind of its own little village, so to speak, in a way, anyway. Um, Winterfell is its own village. It's got blacksmiths and stable people, the whole works. So Winterfell is its own village, and of course King's Landing is a city. Harrenhal is a city. Um, River Run is its own village. Casterly Rock. All of these major houses are actually kind of little small towns and cities themselves as well. Um, the other ones are minor houses. They're not as big as the ruling big major families. Highgarden, which we've already gotten to. Carhold, they are sworn to the Starks. Seat of House Karstark. And seat of House Karen is Nightsong. And Nightsong is sworn to Storm's End. Nightsong is here. So they are sworn to Storm's End, even though they're closer to Dorne. Runestone is the seat of House Royce, and they are sworn to the Eyrie, which makes sense because they are right beside it. Seat of House Mallister is Seaguard, and they are sworn to River Run. There is Seaguard. I can understand why they are sworn to River Run. Shadow Tower is one of the three fortresses. We already did that. Storm's End is the seat of House Baratheon. It is said that ancient spells have been woven into the castle's walls. And at the beginning of the show, Robert Baratheon is the king that's on the throne at King's Landing. Torrhen Square is the seat of House Tallhart, sworn to Winterfell. And Vaith is the seat of House Vaith, sworn to House Martell. And that's the minor keeps. Now we have villages. These will be represented in silver. The village marks are Ashmark is the seat of House Marbrand, and they are sworn to Casterly Rock. And I'm just moving Iron Island around like it ain't nothing over there, huh? Ripping up the land and everything over here. All right. Put Pike back where it goes. All right. Cornfield is the seat of House Swift, sworn to Casterly Rock. Where is that? Cornfield. Oh, it's right there. Crakehall is the seat of House Crakehall, sworn to Casterly Rock. The Lannisters have a lot of people sworn to them. You've not noticed that. Oh, Craster's Keep. That's up here north of the wall. That is, he's a wildling, but he's kind of like the king wildling, if you want to put it that way. He's like the head wildling up here. He has a keep. He has lots of daughters, and he gives the Night Watch supplies and shelter and stuff when they come do duties north of the wall. God's Grace is the seat of House Illyrian, and they are sworn to House Martell. Man, some of these are hard to pop through those little holes, I'm telling you. Hornwood is the seat of House Hornwood, sworn to Winterfell. That's right here outside of Winterfell. Basically, being sworn to a house means that if that house goes to war, you will send troops with them. Inn at the Crossroads. All roads lead to this house of hospitality situated at the four corners where the major highways of Westeros meet. It's right outside of King's Landing. And an awful lot, there's quite a few different stories that take part in the show at the Inn at the Crossroads. Last Hearth is the seat of House Umber, and they are sworn to Winterfell. Moat Cailin is this ancient stronghold of the First Men has been reduced to ruins over the centuries. Yeah, there really isn't much left of it. Old Town is founded by the First Men, and it's home to the Citadel, and it's where all the maesters go to learn to be a maester. Now, maester in Game of Thrones, if you're not familiar with a maester, is kind of alchemist, priest, wizard, all of that rolled into one. He's like the wise man of the each. They live down there in solitude. They swear off, wives, nobility, everything, just like these people do, but they're more of like the spiritual leaders of Winterfell, or of the world. Each house has its own house maester that is, he's a scientist. He's a knowledgeable person. He's a spiritual person. He's a um, dabbles a little bit in some of the magical arts, animal training, that kind of thing. The maester, he teaches the children. Even the maester is responsible for providing education for the kids in the house. So that's his job, and they are all trained at the Citadel in Old Town. Raventree Hall is the seat of House Blackwood, sworn to River Run, and it is literally right outside of River Run. Down to our last few. Sandstone is the House Corgel, sworn to House Martell. And Stonehelm is the seat of House Swan, and they are sworn to Storm's End. And right next door to Stonehelm is Summerhall. Summerhall is a Targaryen summer home, and it was destroyed by a fire that killed King Aegon V and his heir. And so that sits right there outside of King's Landing. Sunspear is the seat of House Martell and the capital of Dorne. It's right out here on this little point here. See? And you have really got to press to get these parts down in there. Oh, they don't really want to fit. And last but not least is the Arbor, seat of House Redwyn, sworn to Highgarden. I don't know why these fit so tight down in there. But there it is. And that, folks, is the entire land of Westeros, with all of the houses, the areas, the battles, minor houses, villages, everything. All the major landmarks from the show are brought to life right here. I really wish there was a way. Let me see if I can bring the camera down and bring you in closer to it so you can see it better. But that is amazing. Take you up there, you can see the wall, kind of, sort of. It's kind of blurry there. There it goes, it focuses. Quite the amazing map. And put y'all back where I had you. There you go. Close enough. Close enough for government work, right? There we go. So, all right, I hope you all enjoyed seeing this map of Westeros come to life, learning a little bit about the show if you didn't already know. Maybe I even inspired some of y'all to go watch it and become fans of it, because I tell you, it is a great, great story. Long. There's like, 8 seasons? Some of the shows are 2 hours. Episodes are 2 hours long. It's a commitment. I'll put it that way. It's a commitment, but it's well worth it. The storyline is second to none. The acting and the characters are developed so well through the show. The cinematography is spectacular. Special effects are off the charts. It is just a great show all around. If you have not seen it, and you always wondered what everybody likes about it so much, for sure watch it. One, it's not really a show for kids. There is some language, quite a bit of it. There is plenty of graphic violence. Lot of disrobed humans. So yeah, it's definitely not for children to watch unless you just let your kids watch that kind of thing, which that's that's your choice. Um, but yeah, it's definitely worth seeing. So I hope y'all enjoyed this. I do still have the other area that's mainly about the Targaryens, and it's the puzzle of Essos to do. This one was 1,400 plus pieces. The puzzle of Essos is 1,350 plus pieces and 30 detailed buildings. I also have maps of Washington, D.C. and New York City in this style as well. And those you can do as puzzles over building. It's a city through time. So the guide that comes with it actually shows you what buildings to place where to depict the city during specific periods of time, anywhere from 1700 all the way up to 2013. So you can do everything from when it was just Manhattan Island and it was flat ground all the way up to what it is pretty much nowadays. They haven't updated it since 2013, but New York City, as far as the main buildings, has not changed much since then. That was when it does have the new One World Trade Center, and it also still has the Twin Towers if you want to build it as it was pre 9/11. So I'm gonna probably do that one on the channel at some point. I don't know that I'm going to do the puzzle of Essos right away. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do it right away. But I've got some other ones I want to get to. I just had some come in that I really want to work on. I have another channel. It's for diamond painting. But every year we do a Christmas premiere. Um, and for that Christmas premiere, we do something Christmassy. We tell stories. Everybody in the community gets basically assigned, you sign up for it, gets assigned a 1 hour time slot either on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, or the day after, Boxing Day, for those of you in other countries. And each creator does a 1 hour video, uploads it as a premiere to premiere during the time slot that they were assigned on that day. And since there is a live chat with a premiere, it gives people that have nowhere else to go at Christmas time, no family to spend time with or anything like that, it gives them a place to go to feel like they're with somebody. They can hang out in the chat. I hang out in the chat all day long with everybody. I've done this now we've done it for the last 5 years, and I've been taking part in all of them. So I'm gonna do that again on my other channel, Diamond Paint with Diamond Dave. I'll link it below in the chat. I've already signed up for it, and I will be doing my video soon. And for that video, I'm actually going to do a puzzle instead of a diamond painting. I'm going to do the Ravensburger Christmas Around the World Advent Calendar. I'm going to do it all in one video. So that's going to be my Christmas premiere this year. But I also these just arrived today, and I can't wait to work on them. This one here is a 3-foot wide panoramic New York City puzzle with the Twin Towers. And this one is one I've had on my wish list for a while. It is the Ravensburger 2,000 piece Brooklyn Bridge with the Twin Towers in the background. So I can't wait to work on those. But I think my next video that I film is going to go ahead and get this Advent Calendar film done, edited, and waiting to be uploaded, so that when I find out what my date and time is for the premiere, I can go ahead and just upload my premiere and get it set and done and over with. So Until next time, y'all, rock on, roll tide.